Everyone thinks the Black Death was just a tragedy. They're wrong, it was the most violent labor negotiation in history. Between 1347 and 1353, roughly 75 million people across Eurasia died from plague. Europe lost somewhere between 30 and 60% of its population. But here's what nobody talks about: the survivors woke up in a completely different economy. The scarcity wasn't grain or land anymore. It was people, and people who know they're scarce don't stay peasants. Before 1347, European feudalism ran on surplus labor. Landlords had more peasants than they needed. Wages stayed flat, food was cheap, a serf had almost no negotiating power, there were always 10 people willing to work for crumbs. Then the plague hit. Suddenly fields went untended, harvests collapsed, demand for labor exploded. Why? Because dead people don't work. Here's where incentives get interesting. Surviving peasants could now demand higher wages, or they'd simply move to the next village. Landlords faced a choice: pay more or watch their estates crumble. Most paid more. Real wages for agricultural labor roughly doubled or tripled in the decades after the plague. For the first time in generations, ordinary workers had leverage. But landlords didn't accept this quietly. Across England, France, and the Low Countries, nobles pushed back with laws, wage caps, work mandates, restrictions on movement. Sound familiar? They were literally legislating to suppress labor costs. It didn't work. You can't legislate scarcity away. The Black Death had rewritten the rules, and no law could undo it. Wealth didn't just redistribute downward, it also shifted geographically. Cities suffered plague losses worse than rural areas. Rural labor became scarce and expensive. Urban craftspeople found themselves in demand. Guilds tightened. Apprenticeships became more valuable. Artisans who survived the plague accumulated capital at speeds unimaginable before. The medieval economy wasn't just reshaped, it was inverted. By the 1380s, this tension exploded. The Peasants' Revolt in England, the Jacquerie in France, these weren't spontaneous uprisings, they were wage disputes. Workers had tasted power and they weren't giving it back. Nobility crushed these revolts, but they couldn't crush the underlying shift. Labor scarcity had fundamentally altered the balance of power in feudal Europe. The real story isn't that plague killed millions, it's that the survivors inherited a world where their labor was worth something. Feudalism didn't collapse overnight, but the plague cracked its foundation. Over the next 2 centuries, wages stayed elevated, mobility increased, and the rigid labor hierarchy of the medieval world began to fracture. A pandemic didn't end feudalism, scarcity did. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe to explore the hidden economics behind history's turning points, new episodes every week. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.